It's the third Saturday in October. Tennessee, Alabama. Will the home team win yet again in this rivalry?
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, a Locked On crossover edition of the show here today. Locked On Vols meets Locked On Bama. I'm Eric Cain with Locked On Vols. That's Luke Robinson of Locked On Bama. Today's episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the redeem code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Again, shout out to our friends over at Game Time. We got a fun show coming up here for you today. We're going to preview what this rivalry means. These two teams at this point in the season. Quarterback matchup, pretty good one. Look at the defenses, look at the injuries, keys to the game, all that and more, plus injuries, and our picks there towards the end here on a Locked On crossover edition. All right, Luke, I know you and I talk about this every single year when we do this. This rivalry, it means a lot to a lot of people, right? This rivalry is your favorite. You know, Tennessee and Alabama, third Saturday in October. Why for you is this one bigger than the Iron Bowl?
First of all, I'm going to go ahead and make an admission that it's not. I grew up very close to Auburn. Okay, I grew up very close to Auburn. So, I mean, I love the I'll say this. I don't hate Tennessee the way other Alabama fans do. That may get me fired from Locked On Bama. I respect it more. I don't like the Philip Fulmer era. I mean, you know, and what went on there. But I'm kind of cool with the Alabama-Tennessee thing. I know it gets nasty from time to time. I've been in Knoxville sometimes when, you know, wasn't treated. I'm sure some other people have been to Tuscaloosa and the same thing. But I like this game more than the Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl has such a personal, deep meaning to me. But I enjoy this game. I was there in 89. You might not have even been born. I was there in 89 when Saran Stacy exploded, as Brent Musburger put it. I went in 1988. Back when Tennessee was, I think they were 0-5, and we beat them to make it 0-6. They didn't lose again until the next year when they played Alabama in Legion Field, and they had Reggie Cobb and Chuck Webb, and Reggie Cobb had gotten in trouble, so Webb was the only running back they had, but they had dudes everywhere. I was there in 94 and 95, I think it was, when Peyton led the band. I've been to a lot of these games and a lot of games in Knoxville too. And to me, this game is just more college football. Like the Iron Bowl has such a deep-seated thing for me because I grew up so close to Auburn and ended up at Alabama. But the third Saturday in October is always like the middle of the college football season, and is when things really start to take shape. And I think, you know, Bear Bryant and General Neyland always took this game so seriously. It feels like it's not as much of a rivalry because what Nick Saban did. I mean, Nick Saban went a long time and created a wide gap in the all-time series, but this game is always a ton of fun. It's always had some spectacular moments.
Well, look at my lead right there. I just get shot down. I thought you said last year on our crossover that this was your favorite rivalry, but again, you had a lot of respect for it and you love it.
Let me say this. Outside of the Iron Bowl is like a different stratosphere to me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a different thing. Outside of that, it's my favorite rivalry, 100%.
Yeah. Should be a good one this week, and you're right. I mean, it kind of felt like it wasn't. I mean, this series has always been streaky one way or the other. It's never gone to the magnitude of 15 straight, which was what Nick Saban had against Tennessee up until 2022, and since 2022, it's been 2-2. It's been split a little bit, so. I guess it's been 2-2 since Josh Heupel's been here. So 21, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's math. But Tennessee hadn't won on the road in this rivalry since 2003. So a lot on the line, no doubt. College football playoffs, you're right. I mean, this is kind of the midway through the college football season. A big win, of course. Alabama's already got a big win over Georgia. This would be a big signature win for Tennessee in terms of a college football playoff push. Kind of looking at these two teams to date, I'll let you talk on Alabama here in a moment because I know Alabama's playing really good football right now. Tennessee's playing good football as well. You're a missed field goal away from being undefeated, beating Georgia in overtime, and said you missed that field goal, you go to overtime and you lose. Tennessee's offense is explosive, just like everybody thought it was going to be whenever You lost Dylan Sampson and Nico Iamaleava darted for the portal, and you lost 4 starters on the offensive line, and you turned over your wide receiver room. And just like everybody predicted that midway through the season, Tennessee would be leading the SEC in offense. But, it's been fun, man. Tennessee's run the football well. Joey Aguilar has been better than anyone could possibly imagine. This offensive line has been better. Explosive wide receivers. So it's been good to kind of get back to an offense that Josh Heupel's kind of known for. Defensively, it's kind of been weird, right? Tennessee had such an elite defense a season ago. Clearly, that's not the case. They've been battered, bruised, injured, missed a ton of starters, up until this point in the season. But it is what it is, right? They've gotten thrown all over. They've been run all over. Scoring defense is a little bit skewed because I don't like that stat because I think it's different. But nonetheless, Tennessee's defense is one of the nation leaders in sacks, top 10 in TFLs, nation leaders in defensive touchdowns, nation leaders in takeaways. I mean, this defense, for all that it gives, it's so opportunistic. So it kind of makes you feel like you're going to be in any game no matter what. And I expect Tennessee certainly to be in this football game with a chance to win it down there in Tuscaloosa. So that's kind of a look at Tennessee. Maybe not the defense you'd expect at this point in the season, but a defense that creates takeaways, an offense that's explosive, and it's been a fun brand of football, no doubt. Alabama, everybody was writing the obituaries after the loss to Florida State. Since then, 3 straight SEC wins, and Alabama, pretty good football team, Luke.
They're a lot of fun. I just went to the Missouri game, and you could tell those were 2 really good football teams. Now, the funny thing to me, once you started running down your description of Tennessee, I kept thinking, yeah, that sounds a lot like us. Who would have thought at this point in the season, Joey Aguilar and Ty Simpson, I think they're the best 2 quarterbacks in the league right now. I mean, certainly better than Garrett Nussmeier and Lenoris Sellers and DJ Lagway, who everybody thought were going to be the guys. And Mateer, who looked sharp at first, but of course with the hand injury and then the way he looked at Texas, I mean, Ty Simpson's leading some of these Heisman polls, and Joey Aguilar should at least be in the discussion. That they only are separated by 2 yards of passing through 6 games. I mean, they have the most yards passing. They're number 1 and number 2, and Aguilar has 2 more yards passing than does Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson has 2 more touchdowns and 4 fewer interceptions. But again, a lot of similarities. I think they both got a bunch of Frisbee catching dogs at wide receiver. They both have defenses that at times you kind of wonder, like, what are we doing? And then other times they make magic happen. I mean, Alabama specifically, it seems like every time we play somebody, Florida State, for instance, they scored on their first drive. Vanderbilt scored on their first drive. Missouri this past week scored on their first drive. And the first thing you want to do is say, Cain Womack, what's going on? And then the next thing you know, the defense is coming up with some huge stops late in the game, and they make some adjustments and things get fixed. They may give up some yards, but in the end, they've been helping Alabama a lot, and they've been getting better, and I think Tennessee is too.
I want to dive down into the quarterback matchup. Again, like you said, who would have thought at this point in the season that Ty Simpson, Joey Aguilar would be the top 2 statistically bound quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference? I don't think anybody predicted that, but they're playing some really good football. So let's dive into the quarterback matchup and then kind of poke holes in. I want to ask you about, what doesn't make sense about Alabama on the stat sheet. You can do the same. We'll continue on this Locked On crossover when we return. This is Locked On Vols and Locked On Bama. Stay tuned. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is super exciting. But getting your home ready for guests and celebrations can feel like a lot. Maybe you swerve. Maybe your silverware. Let me try that again. Maybe your silverware needs a refresh. The guest room could look at some new bedding. Wayfair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees to wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every single room in the house. Wayfair makes it easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection for every style and budget. With a free, easy delivery, even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. I love how easy it is to find pieces that fits my style, my wife's style, and our budget. Most importantly, everything was in one place, and the checkout, it truly was a breeze over at Wayfair. Get organized, get refreshed, and get ready for the holidays by spending way less. Head on over to Wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That is Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style and every home. NFL season is here, man. Sundays are so much fun. I'm just perusing NFL Red Zone, checking out on my fantasy teams and all that, but also a little added motive for me on Sunday afternoons when I'm watching my fantasy team is playing over there at FanDuel Sportsbook, where if you're a new customer right now, incredible offer. Put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I like FanDuel because it allows me to bet in different ways that I like to. I like to build parlays, right? Individual player props, following the live lines during game, line betting options like I did on Monday Night Football last night. If you're the casual fan that loves diving into the stats or just a guy that just likes watching football, FanDuel has a spot for you. So what are you waiting on? Check out FanDuel.com and download the FanDuel app today. FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today. It is free, safe, secure, easy to use, and it's where you can make every moment more. That offer, one more time, new customers, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Again, FanDuel, it's where you can make every moment more. Ty Simpson, Alabama starting quarterback, one time a big-time Tennessee target. He is from the state of Tennessee, and that was back when Jeremy Pruitt was getting ousted. I think Tennessee actually was in really good position to get Ty Simpson when Jeremy Pruitt was the head coach. Josh Heupel got hired and, just trying to play catch-up and didn't really have a shot to get him. But he goes to Alabama and sits behind Bryce Young, sits behind Jalen Milroe, and in the day and age of the transfer portal and all that, kind of surprised maybe that he stuck around. But he did, and it's paying dividends now. You rattled off the stats earlier, in the show. My biggest takeaway from Ty Simpson is, and really Alabama overall, man, you just don't make mistakes, right? You're not perfect. You're not careless with the football. You don't turn it over. He's got one pick. Alabama's offense has 2 turnovers through 6 games, which is magnificent, right? What makes Ty Simpson so effective and one of the leaders in the SEC right now?
I think it's the experience. Like you said, he went the Mac Jones route. He hung around. He took his lumps. He even probably heard things last year. A lot of people equated Alabama's poor play against South Florida in that game in Tampa a couple years ago to Ty Simpson. And they forget that the guy who actually started the game was a lacrosse player from Notre Dame who's back at Notre Dame and who botched a hold that cost him the Texas A&M game, kind of, sort of. But I digress. Ty Simpson hung around. He listened to all the criticism, took his lumps, sat behind Jalen Milroe, even though people were like, hey, if you can't beat out Jalen Milroe, how in the world are you going to beat out Keelan Russell or Austin Mack? And he just did his thing and just waited. And, there were some rumblings and there are some reasons for me to believe Ty battled some self-confidence issues and some anxiety things. And then, but you know what? That's pretty normal. That's not a big deal. I mean, it's okay. And I think all he needed was a shot. And a lot of times that's what some of these kids need. And you need the shot at the right time, though. And had Ty been thrust into action last year, I'm not so sure he'd be having the same kind of year that he does this year. I think he needed some of this. And then he goes to Florida State. He doesn't do well. None of Florida State was his fault. None of it. But I even, in hindsight, very stupidly made the suggestion, maybe we need to change quarterbacks to create a spark because the rest of the team, maybe they weren't responding to Ty. Well, give Ty Simpson all the credit in the world because the next game, Alabama went out and played pretty much a perfect game, against bad competition in ULM, but they did what they needed to do to get back on track. And since then, it's been Katie bar the door. And they have looked fantastic. People are responding to Ty. And meanwhile, these NFL GMs are watching him throw passes he did on 4th and 8 against Missouri late in the ballgame to Lots Brooks. And he just drops a dime in that kind of helps win the game for Alabama. So he's coming through in the clutch. He's only got 1 interception on the year. That was against Vanderbilt in just a kind of a wonky play call. And I think the experience is what's helping him more than anything.
It also helps when you got 3 guys who will probably be playing on Sundays at wide receiver, and Jeremy Bernard, who's fantastic, Ryan Williams, who is 18 years old now, I hear, and
he's always forever 17.
Yeah, Ty Simpson's look really good. For Joey Aguilar, I mean, it's gosh, man, what a story he is, and Ty Simpson's a good story, but Joey Aguilar, one of the best stories in college football, in my opinion, right? I mean, he was a walk-on in junior college like 5 years ago and went to a couple different JUCOs, and then went to the Sun Belt with Appalachian State and was not the starter his first game, but it took about halfway through the first quarter with an injury. He went in and never looked back, right? And he's got one of the longest active streaks in FBS. It's like, 23 games or whatever it is of, 200, passing yards or more. He's the active leader in yards per game, yards of total offense, and all college football. But he was a gunslinger, and he did a lot of good at Appalachian State. And then, getting that extra year, wanted to go back home to the state of California, being closer to home, trying Power 4, and he was said to be UCLA's guy. Well, Nico enters the portal. Nico's going home as well, goes to UCLA. He needs a spot. He comes to Tennessee, the first trade in college football history, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's funny, man. I mean, Spencer McLaughlin was one. I'll never forget this. He was like, did Tennessee get a cash in the trade or, player to be named later? Because that seems like it's unfair. And at the time, I mean, everybody thought it was unfair, right? And goodness gracious. I mean, Nico's playing better now, but man, did it look like a completely one-sided trade. It just clicked. Joey Aguilar in this offense, he's a veteran. He hadn't played a lot of football at this level, but he's played a ton of football, and it shows. Keeps his eyes downfield, evades pressure. It's like he has one play every single game where it's like, oh, that guy's sacked. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, he completed the pass. Holy crap. He's crafty is a good way to put it. Kind of his stigma coming into Tennessee was, well, he threw 24 picks in 2 years at Appalachian State or whatever it was. And whatever it was, like it was like 55 touchdowns, 24 picks or something. And it's like, okay, well, he's going to put the ball in harm's way. He does have 5 interceptions on the year. Yeah. And your audience may think that I'm the biggest homer ever. You could honestly nitpick. I think 4 of those weren't even his fault. One time a receiver slips, throws it right to the defender, right where he would be. 2 of those interceptions were off the hands of his receivers. Maybe 2 interceptions. One time he threw into double coverage, but it was kind of like an arm punt. And then, last week he threw one football where you're like, what the hell are you doing? But he has not put the football in harm's way at all. He's been smart. He's been accurate with the football. He throws the deep ball very well. He's been awesome, and it's been really, really cool to see. I want to ask you about the run game for Alabama real quick. Jam Miller, obviously very questionable for this football game. Concussion last week. Missed the first 3 weeks of the season. Alabama's rushing totals are not very impressive so far, but, I got to think a lot of that's because you haven't had your guy in Jam Miller.
That's definitely true to a degree. I also just think this is a passing team. Look, when you use your weapons, everybody loves to talk about, you got to play defense and you got to run the football. Well, you always do really need to play defense. But running the ball now, the football's a different game. And a lot of times your best players are your wide receivers. And like you mentioned, Jeremy Bernard and Hollywood and Isaiah Horton and Rico Scott. And, Alabama's got a bunch of dudes that can catch the ball. Brooks is playing out of his mind right now. So they've got a bunch of guys. They're their best players. Get them the ball. And Ty Simpson is getting them the ball. So if you've got an accurate quarterback who's hot and you've got a fantastic receiver room, use it. And I think that's what Tennessee's doing too. Now, Tennessee, certainly more balanced. I would say this, again, this is not meant to be an insult, but I think Alabama certainly played the tougher of 2 schedules. And, when you have – anytime I look on a schedule and see UAB on it, you feasted because they just fired Trent Dilfer because UAB was a hot mess. Trust me, I live in Birmingham. It's awful. And so Tennessee was able to feast on that. And again, that's fantastic. They should do that. But it might skew the numbers just a hair. I think this is going to be the toughest game for Tennessee. It may end up being the toughest game for Alabama to date, but Alabama's already had a bunch of really tough games. The Vanderbilt game was no joke. I'm telling you, I know Tennessee fans don't want to hear it. That team's good. That team ain't screwing around. Missouri is good. And obviously Alabama went to Georgia and won while they were still undefeated. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Tennessee – I'm going to make one prediction early. I bet you Tennessee scores on their opening drive.
I would take that. Tennessee is a great starting football team, really both offensively and defensively. Defensively, it did not start well last week against Arkansas. Arkansas, I know, fired Sam Pittman and all that, but that team, for the most part, can score some points. This will, without a doubt, be the best team Tennessee's played, for sure. I think this will be the best offense that Alabama's faced, and I think this will be the best defensive line that Alabama's faced, at least the best pass rush that Alabama's faced. There's obviously some holes in terms of Tennessee's rush defense and stuff. We'll get to that here in a moment. But yeah, I think this is set up to be a really, really good matchup because I think that both these teams kind of display something that these teams haven't really faced or haven't seen yet this year, and it should make some things really, really interesting. Let's talk more defense. Let's talk about some stats that I want to pick Luke's brain on, because it doesn't seem very Alabama-esque, but still solid overall. And then Luke can ask about Tennessee's defense, because it's just like, man, it's elite and elite and elite in this category, and then it's like worse than the SEC, worse than the SEC, worse than the SEC in that category. It's all over the map. We'll talk defense when we return right here on this crossover edition, Locked On Vols and Locked On Bama. College football is so back, and I couldn't be more excited, right? The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, and there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, okay? Getting tickets can feel like more of a hassle, but can feel like more of the game than the game itself, right? Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use the Game Time app. Luke does as well. He told me. Luke uses the Game Time app. He used it this past weekend in Missouri to get his tickets. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees, all right? So what you see is what you pay for. Plus, they have the Game Time guarantee, where if you find a cheaper ticket in the same section on an alternate app, they're going to credit you 110% of the worth of that ticket. Most flexible, the best customer service policy in the ticketing industry, and it's not just for sporting events. We're talking about college football right now, but for concerts, for shows in your area, typically any event that's going on in the area that you're in, chances are they're selling the tickets to that event on the Game Time app. And if you're a procrastinator like I am, a lot of times it's cheaper the closer to said event. I mean, what more can you ask for, right? Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, Luke, so you look at Tennessee's defense, and, I mean, just look at the overall stat sheet, SEC ranks. I mean, Tennessee is towards the bottom in pass defense, and rush defense, and scoring defense. No excuses. It's bad, man. Tennessee's rush defense, pull your hair out. Like, it's been horrible. It's been awful. And again, you're without your two starting corners. You're missing a couple defensive linemen. But, I mean, it is what it is. 6 games in, you are who you are. What Tennessee also is, I mean, I think they're leading the SEC in sacks. Like, I think they're leading the nation in sacks per game. Top 10 in the nation in TFLs. They've scored 4 defensive touchdowns. They create a ton of turnovers, very opportunistic defensively. So it's kind of a mixed bag for Tennessee. Arion Carter's solid at linebacker. Tennessee's got 4 or 5 different guys on the defensive line that really make a habit of getting back there in the backfield, and they'll need to do that for sure to try to get Ty Simpson out of rhythm. Ty Simpson's he's going to make some throws, he's going to do some things, but you really need to try to get him out of a rhythm as much as you can. In the back end, missing your 2 starting cornerbacks. One's probably a first rounder in Javon McCoy. Colton Hood stepped in, the transfer from Colorado, and he's been fantastic. You got a true freshman on the other side in Ty Redmond, and Georgia picked on him all game long. I expect Alabama to do the same thing, but also I think he's kind of held his own. I think he's done a pretty good job overall this season. Middle of the field, not good. Linebacker and pass coverage, safety, zone coverage, not good for Tennessee, but they're going to give up a lot, but, so far they're pretty good for a takeaway or 2 per game and giving the football back to the offense, and Tennessee's going to have to do that. Let me ask you this. I understand Nick Saban's not coaching football anymore, okay? Still, I look at Alabama's defense, not very good against the defending the run, and only 9 sacks so far this season. How would you – but again, the scoring defense is good. They're great against the pass. Overall, the numbers are good, but rush defense and not getting to the quarterback, what do you attribute that to?
I think Alabama doesn't have a superstar along the defensive line like they've had in the peak Saban era. They've got some good players. A true freshman named London Simmons playing great, but he's a true freshman. And he's playing great relative to being a true freshman. Tim Keenan, been injured, but he's back, and he's playing well, but he's not really a sack guy. LT Overton is coming on, though. He had a sack and a half this past week. He's looking better and better. He's starting to figure it out. Keon Keeley, who was a 5-star recruit several years ago, it seems like decades ago, Alabama fans were so excited about him. And it just hadn't come together. I mean, he switched positions. He's gone from really playing without his hands in the dirt to playing with his hands in the dirt. And it takes a while to learn, but he had a half a sack this past weekend. And I felt like that was my son out there getting the sack, because Jimmy and I have hyped him up for so long. And I was like, thank goodness. And I'm just glad it's coming together for him. It's also been an opportunity via some injuries for him to get out there more. But, you got Kelby Collins, who transferred from Florida. He got banged up in this Missouri game. I assume he's going to be fine. In fact, I think he went back in the game, but he was banged up for a minute. And he's playing okay. He's coming along a little bit more. But again, you don't have a Ryan Anderson or, somebody like that just used to come off the edge, or Rashaan Evans that just, man, you better get that ball out of your hands quick. Alabama doesn't have a great pass rush right now. I think it's getting better, though. And Justin Jefferson is playing fantastic, a little undersized guy, number 10, but he always makes big tackles. He was Defensive Player of the Week a couple of weeks ago against Vanderbilt. And this team's getting better. And I think also you're about to see some more true freshmen start playing. Dejon Lee, who made the interception to end the game against Missouri, he's going to get even more playing time. They talked about him today. Look, he's a true freshman. It takes a minute, but he's about to supplant a guy who's a senior who a lot of people were fired up about that isn't quite playing up to par, I would say. But I think we're going to see more and more of that. Some of these true freshmen get in there and get their opportunities. But in terms of I just think this defense is going to give up some big plays. It gave up a big run to Missouri's backup running back. It did a great job, though, against Ahmad Hardy, who is incredible. This guy is super. And even though he broke a ton of tackles, did some good stuff, he only had 54 yards. And so I got to give the defense their flowers, even though it felt like after the game I was like, I bet Ahmad Hardy had 90 yards. He only had 54. I mean, I was shocked. And so I think this defense is doing just enough. And when you've got an offense that's as powerful as Alabama's is, especially through the air, they can help make up for some deficiencies you have in the defense.
No doubt. I got one more question I want to ask you, and then you can hit me with any questions about Tennessee. I'll be happy to answer them before we get into our picks. I do want to make mention, obviously, for Alabama, for Tennessee fans, safety play. Bray Hubbard leading the conference with 3 picks. He's been really, really good. Offensive line, not running the ball very well. You kind of touched on that. Obviously, Ty Simpson's been great. Overall, total offense, points per game, all that's really, really good. But they've allowed 13 sacks. How's it? I mean, Brailsford, the center, one of the best centers in the league. Of course, you got Proctor, who's also, running back or whatever, in the jumbo set.
Wild Rhino, yeah.
Yeah. How do they use him, by the way, in that, and also just the offensive line in general? How would you assess the offensive line?
Offensive line's been mostly good. Again, another situation there. Wilkin Formby not played fantastic. He gave up a couple of sacks this past weekend in Missouri. And Mike Carroll, who was one of the top offensive linemen in this signing class, he has begun to take more and more snaps, and I think he'll get even more against Tennessee. Again, it's a true freshman, but Mike Carroll's a dude. He played at IMG Academy. So, I mean, he's played against some pretty good players, even just in practice. But I think the offensive line has been okay. I think Ty Simpson helps make them look a little better from time to time because he gets the ball out usually pretty quickly, and he is also a pretty good scrambler. So I think he's helped make the offensive line look a little better. And also, whenever you're not a super running team, a lot of people tend to blame it on your offensive line, like they just can't run block. I don't know. I feel like part of that is we don't have a dynamic running back either. I love Jam Miller, love him, and I hope he gets to play in this game. I doubt he does, but he is sort of the heart and soul of this team. But he's the kind of guy that's going to make the play like he did against Georgia, where he catches the last pass of the game to end it, and then he has the sense to slide down and let the clock keep going. He's not Najee Harris. He's not Derrick Henry. He's not TJ Yeldon or Trent Richardson or Mark Ingram. He's not any of those guys. But he's a really good player, and he does a fantastic job picking up the blitz. That's what scares me about this weekend. Daniel Hill got a lot more minutes because I think we needed a big back in there and somebody that can pick up the blitz. But Daniel Hill doesn't have near the experience that Jam Miller does. And so I think Tennessee's going to get the next this weekend.
Yeah, no Jam Miller, Kevin Riley, Richard Young, Daniel Hill, who's the 245-pound back that you just referenced there. A heavy dose of those guys. Anything you want to ask Tennessee-wise before we get into our picks about the Volunteers and, ahead of this matchup?
Well, I sat here and I talked about Alabama's receiver room, and I'll tell you something. I wouldn't trade it with anybody. I'm sure Tennessee fans feel the same way. Their room's pretty good. But I would feel even better if I were a Tennessee fan because I just looked up the stats in terms of SEC leading receivers. Tennessee's got 3 guys on it before you get to the first Alabama guy, which is so weird because we just mentioned that Ty Simpson only has 2 fewer yards total through the same number of games as Joey Aguilar. So what it sounds like is Tennessee's got 3 guys they target. Now, they're all super. Frisbee catching dogs, they're big deals. But I think Alabama has, spreads it around a little bit more. Pick your poison. But which of those 3 receivers do you think is the best on the team?
Man, it's a really good question, and you're exactly right. Tennessee only plays 3 receivers. They only have 7 scholarship receivers. 2 of their backup receivers are hurt right now, so they're very limited down. The other guys who are on scholarship are both slot receivers. So, Tennessee, again, there's not a lot of numbers there at wide receiver, but they only play the 3, and that's why the numbers are what they are. Chris Brazzell, man, another great story, right? I mean, you remember Chris Brazzell last year. They moved him in the slot there on that touchdown back corner or back at the end zone. Great throw by Nico. I mean, that was the game when he touchdown to beat Alabama. That was his biggest play. He was a big transfer portal get ahead of last season. He just never really materialized for the most part in terms of consistency. He outdid all of his numbers in the first 4 games of this year. He's been phenomenal. I'll tell you what, Arkansas did a great job. They were like, hey, Chris Brazzell's not going to beat us. He was targeted 4 times, had 1 reception for 5 yards. They did a great job with him, but that opened the door for Braylon Staley in the slot over the middle, who's a dynamic guy and a really tough guy. Mike Matthews, former 5-star. They'll find different ways to get him the football. They gave it to him on an end around last week. He's got a lot of speed, top-end speed. So, I think Brazzell's the best of the bunch. He's having the best season of the bunch, but all 3 of those guys can kind of hurt you in different ways. And so it'll be kind of exciting to see how Joey Aguilar goes about this challenge with that Alabama secondary. All right, time of this recording, things can always change, but this is a Tuesday show, so at the time of this recording, we have Alabama as 9.5-point favorites. That line's been hopping around depending on where you look, right? But that's over at our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. The total is at 58.5. Luke, how do you see this going? Is Alabama going to lose this game for the first time since 2003 at home to the Tennessee Volunteers, and how's that going to happen? See what I did there? See what I did there?
I did. I was just going to let it slide. I'm going to say this, that I think it's hard to pick against Alabama right now. I mean, it's been a wild college football season, and so you never know. I mean, if UCLA can beat Penn State, I mean, just about anything can happen. But I'm going to say that Alabama wins, and I'm going to say they win 42-33. So they just missed covering by half a point. I think Tennessee's going to get their yards, get their points. But in the end, I think Tennessee is susceptible to being beaten through the air, and that just happens to be Alabama's strength. And so while I think Tennessee's going to get some sacks, and I think Tennessee's a great team, and I've got a lot of respect for them, 6:30 at night in Bryant-Denny, that place is going to be pretty geeked up. I'm looking forward to going, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I pick Alabama right now with a confidence level of 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a Tennessee guy diving into the stats. Watched Alabama a couple of times, but when you cover Tennessee, when you cover a specific team, you miss a lot of college football. But I watch Alabama play Vanderbilt. Watch Alabama play a little bit against Georgia. I watched a little bit of the beginning of the game with Missouri this past weekend. But I'm taking a lot of what I'm thinking off the stat sheet, and I see an Alabama team that is so solid across the top, and I mean this is no disrespect. I think Alabama is a good football team. I think Ty Simpson's playing great. I was just really surprised about the run game, the defending the run game, the sacks on both sides. I was kind of surprised because you don't see that from Alabama, but kind of a different team like you pointed out. Having said all that, though, man, I mean, Tennessee had won this game since 2003 in Tuscaloosa, and I have seen Tennessee play defense. It is either really good, or really, really bad. So beginning of the week, man, I agree with you. It's hard to pick against Alabama in this one right now. Maybe I can be talked into it as the week goes on. But I do think it's going to be a shootout. I think Tennessee is going to score a ton of points. I think Alabama is going to score a ton of points. But can Tennessee make a stop late in the game when it needs to? I don't know if I have the confidence in that right now. And that's unfortunate, man, because Tennessee's got a lot of great defensive players. Just overall, outside of, again, takeaways, sacks, not playing the best football right now. So give me Alabama. I don't know. Give me Alabama right now, 42, Tennessee 35, we'll just call it right there. And then maybe as the week goes on, I can be talked into it. But anyway, you want to look at it, Luke, should be a good game. Should be an exciting football game. This rivalry, and you're exactly right. I mean, it didn't feel like a rivalry for the longest time because Nick Saban dominated it for 15 straight years, but 2-2 in their last 4. It's been fun the last couple of years, and I'm expecting a really, really fun game on Saturday, man. Can't wait to see what happens. And I know that you and I both will be reacting to it all right here on Locked On Vols and Locked On Bama.
Can't wait. Dying to get for Saturday to get here. It's just going to be a ton of fun, and hope a lot of Tennessee fans come down and enjoy themselves.
It'll be a blast. If you are a Tennessee fan, you want more about Alabama, check out Luke and Jimmy Stein on Locked On Bama this week. They do a fantastic job. If you're an Alabama fan, want to know more about the Tennessee Volunteers, come on over. We'll let you in. We'll be nice. Locked On Vols, pull up a chair. Let's learn about it all before the 6:30 local time kickoff on ABC, Tennessee and Alabama, for the 3rd Saturday in October. This has been a Locked On Podcast crossover, Locked On Vols and Locked On Bama.